Coherent. If a piece of writing, set of ideas is coherent, it is easy to understand because it is clear and reasonable.
The 3 years of the course are planned as a coherent whole.
Aesthetic. Connected with beauty and the study of beauty.
From an aesthetic point of view, it's a nice design.
Discrimination. The practice of treating one person or group differently from another in an unfair way.
Immigrants faced harassment and discrimination, and were paid considerably less than their white colleagues.
Momentum. The ability to keep increasing, developing, or being more successful.
The campaign for reform should start to gather momentum in the new year.
Coincidence. When two things happen at the same time, in the same place.
I'm going to Appleby tomorrow. What a coincidence, I'm going there too.
Dysfunction. Not working properly or normally.
The dysfunction in the team's communication led to a breakdown in productivity.
Pollination. To give a flower or plant pollen so that it can produce seeds.
The bees play a crucial role in the pollination of flowers, ensuring the continuation of many plant species.
Abuse. The use of something in a way that it should not be used.
A self-monitoring tax system is clearly open to abuse.
Consequence. Something that happens as a result of a particular action or set of conditions.
Many believe that poverty is a direct consequence of overpopulation.
Assurance. A promise that something will definitely happen or is definitely true, made especially to make someone less worried.
Despite my repeated assurances, Rob still looked very nervous.
Aggravate. To make a bad situation, an illness, or an injury worse.
Building the new road will only aggravate the situation.
Catastrophe. A terrible event in which there is a lot of destruction, suffering, or death.
The Black Sea is facing ecological catastrophe as a result of pollution.
Breed. If animals breed, they mate in order to have babies.
Eagles breed during the cooler months of the year.
Deduction. The process of using the knowledge or information you have in order to understand something or form an opinion, or the opinion that you form.
Children will soon make deductions about the meaning of a word.
Intelligence. The ability to learn, understand, and think about things.
To be good at the game, you need a reasonable level of intelligence.
Outbreak. If there is an outbreak of fighting or disease in an area, it suddenly starts to happen.
There's been an outbreak of food poisoning at the hotel.
Conclusive. Showing that something is definitely true.
The investigation failed to provide any conclusive evidence.
Symptoms. Something wrong with your body or mind which shows that you have a particular illness.
Common symptoms of diabetes are weight loss and fatigue.
Profound. Having a strong influence or effect.
Tolstoy's experiences of war had a profound effect on his work.
Response. Something that is done as a reaction to something that has happened or been said.
The exhibition has received a positive response from visitors.
Discourse. A serious speech or piece of writing on a particular subject.
Candidates should engage in serious political discourse.
Excavate. If a scientist or archaeologist excavates an area of land, they dig carefully to find ancient objects, bones.
Schliemann excavated the ancient city of Troy.
Facilitate. To make it easier for a process or activity to happen.
Computers can be used to facilitate language learning.
Domestic. Relating to or happening in one particular country and not involving any other countries.
The president's foreign and domestic policies have been criticized.
Deterioration. To become worse.
The lack of maintenance has led to the deterioration of the old building.
Anticipate. To expect that something will happen and be ready for it.
The schedule isn't final, but we don't anticipate many changes.
Comprehend. To understand something that is complicated or difficult.
She cannot comprehend the extent of the disaster.
Landmark. Something that is easy to recognize, such as a tall tree or building, and that helps you know where you are.
One of Belfast's most famous landmarks, the Grosvenor Hall, has been demolished.
Fauna. All the animals living in a particular area or period in history.
Geographically distant sites are characterized by very different faunas.
Fraudulent. Intended to deceive people in an illegal way, in order to gain money, power.
I hope that, if there was a fraudulent claim, the minister will prosecute.
Abandoned. An abandoned building, car, boat has been left by the people who owned or used it.
The car was found abandoned in Bristol.
State of the art. Using the most modern and recently developed methods, materials, or knowledge.
Everything about the book's packaging proclaims that it is state of the art, all happening now.
Genetic. Relating to genes or genetics.
By manipulation of the tomato's genetic blueprint, scientists can alter the rate at which it ripens.
Abnormal. Very different from usual in a way that seems strange, worrying, wrong, or dangerous.
My parents thought it was abnormal for a boy to be interested in ballet.
Groundbreaking. Groundbreaking work involves making new discoveries, using new methods.
Other groundbreaking work was reportedly done in the areas of fault tolerance support and compiler optimization.
Hierarchy. A system of organization in which people or things are divided into levels of importance.
She worked her way up through the corporate hierarchy to become president.
Immanent. An event that is imminent, especially an unpleasant one, will happen very soon.
He was in imminent danger of dying.
Irreparable. Irreparable damage. Harm is so bad that it can never be repaired or made better.
Extensive mining will cause irreparable damage to the area.
Statutory. Fixed or controlled by law.
She's below the statutory age for school attendance.
Accelerate. If a process accelerates or if something accelerates it, it happens faster than usual or sooner than you expect.
The Ferrari can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 6.3 seconds.
Tariff. A tax on goods coming into a country or going out of a country.
The government may impose tariffs on imports.
Succinct. Clearly expressed in a few words.
We remember what is short and succinct.
Aerial. In or moving through the air.
Even a modest aerial explosion like the 15-megaton Tunguska event would utterly devastate a modern city.
Advocate. To publicly support a particular way of doing something.
Extremists were openly advocating violence.
Legitimate. Fair or reasonable.
Most scientists believe it is legitimate to use animals in medical research.
Terminate. If something terminates, or if you terminate it, it ends.
The court ruled that the contract must be terminated.
Cognitive. Related to the process of knowing, understanding, and learning something.
All the evidence points to dreaming being a highly complex cognitive activity.
Heritage. The traditional beliefs, values, customs of a family, country, or society.
The town takes great pride in its architectural heritage.
Assessment. A process in which you make a judgment about a person or situation, or the judgment you make.
I had to make a quick assessment of the situation and act accordingly.
Barrier. A rule, problem that prevents people from doing something, or limits what they can do.
He advocated the removal of trade barriers.
Exemption. An amount of money that you do not have to pay tax on.
You qualify for a tax exemption on the loan.
Treaty. A formal written agreement between two or more countries or governments.
Both sides have agreed to sign the treaty.
Complication. A problem or situation that makes something more difficult to understand or deal with.
The fact that the plane was late added a further complication to our journey.
Empirical. Based on scientific testing or practical experience, not on ideas.
Alan also expressed concern about the empirical base for the category.
Repercussion. The effects of an action or event, especially bad effects that continue for some time.
The collapse of the company had repercussions for the whole industry.
Undermine. To gradually make someone or something less strong or effective.
The constant criticism was beginning to undermine her confidence.
Long term. Continuing for a long period of time, or relating to what will happen in the distant future.
Any patient who has vascular disease should be on long-term aspirin.
Efficient. If someone or something is efficient, they work well without wasting time, money, or energy.
Lighting is now more energy efficient.
Emerging. In an early state of development.
A new view of war, albeit one which had close links with past ideas, was gradually emerging.
Scrutinize. To examine someone or something very carefully.
He scrutinized the document.
Carbon dating. A method of finding out the age of very old objects by measuring the amount of carbon in them.
Tests on 16 fossilized shellfish showed that acid dating is as accurate as carbon dating.
Exposure. When someone is in a situation where they are not protected from something dangerous or unpleasant.
Prolonged exposure to the sun can cause skin cancer.
Withstand. To be strong enough to remain unharmed by something such as great heat, cold, pressure.
This fabric can withstand steam and high temperatures.
Biased. Unfairly preferring one person or group over another.
Of course I'm biased, but I thought my daughter's paintings were the best.
Uphold. To defend or support a law, system, or principle so that it continues to exist.
The rule of unanimity on most decisions was upheld.
Corporate. Belonging to or relating to a corporation.
The company is moving its corporate headquarters from New York to Houston.
Commodity. A useful quality or thing.
Crude oil is the world's most important commodity.
Compensate. To replace or balance the effect of something bad.
Because my left eye is so weak, my right eye has to work harder to compensate.
Unanimous. A unanimous decision, vote, agreement is one in which all the people involved agree.
It was decided by a unanimous vote that the school should close.
Amendment. A small change, improvement, or addition that is made to a law or document, or the process of doing this.
Congress passed an amendment ensuring that the law was fairer to everyone.
Discretionary. Not controlled by strict rules, but decided on by someone in a position of authority.
The timing of all subsequent follow-up appointments and endoscopies in the healing phase was discretionary.
Cross-section. Something that has been cut in half so that you can look at the inside or a drawing of this.
The roof beams were 50 centimeters square in cross-section.
Deviation. A noticeable difference from what is expected or acceptable.
Some even feared deviation from their own narrow path, as if deviants were excluded from heaven or segregated.
Pragmatic. Dealing with problems in a sensible, practical way instead of strictly following a set of ideas.
Williams took a more pragmatic approach to management problems.
Depiction. To describe something or someone in writing or speech, or to show them in a painting, picture.
The god is depicted as a bird with a human head.
Surpass. To be even better or greater than someone or something else.
The number of multiple births has surpassed 100,000 for the first time.
Interference. An act of interfering.
Industrial relations should be free from state interference.
Rigorous. Careful, thorough, and exact.
The entrance tests for people wishing to enter the diplomatic service are particularly rigorous.
Widespread. Existing or happening in many places or situations, or among many people.
The report claimed that the problem of police brutality was widespread.
Apparent. Easy to notice.
It is apparent from scientific studies that the drug has some fairly nasty side effects.
Concern. A feeling of worry about something important.
The activities of the far right have been a cause for concern for a while now.
Counter. The place where you pay or are served in a shop, bank, restaurant.
He wondered if the girl behind the counter recognized him.
Ability. The state of being able to do something.
The health center serves all patients, regardless of their ability to pay.
Deficiency. A lack of something that is necessary.
The sum of evidence is now too strong to justify further placebo-controlled trials in communities with vitamin A deficiency.
Academic. Relating to education, especially at college or university level.
In recent years, schools have become more involved with students' emotional welfare as well as their academic achievement.
Dehydrate. To remove the liquid from a substance such as food or a chemical.
I shove aside a pile of dehydrated red and black typewriter ribbons and set my machine down with a clunk.
Attention. When you carefully listen to, look at, or think about someone or something.
Scott sat down at his desk and turned his attention to the file he had in front of him.
Reaction. Something that you feel or do because of something that has happened or been said.
We are concerned about the negative reaction of some of our customers.
Ethical. Relating to principles of what is right and wrong.
The effort to inculcate ethical behavior without religious faith seems one of the great fiascos of the modern age.
Culture. The beliefs, way of life, art, and customs that are shared and accepted by people in a particular society.
We speak Danish at home so that the boys don't lose touch with their language and culture.
Fraud. The crime of deceiving people in order to gain something such as money or goods.
He's been charged with tax fraud.
Measure. To find the size, length, or amount of something, using standard units such as inches and meters.
She was being measured for her wedding dress.
Practitioner. Someone who works as a doctor or a lawyer.
In 1967, Phil Boardman was an early practitioner of this dangerous specialty.
Predator. An animal that kills and eats other animals.
The long spines of the sea urchins protect them from most predators.
Accuracy. The ability to do something in an exact way without making a mistake.
The same Newtonian scheme applies here on Earth and out among the stars and galaxies to some comparable accuracy.
Propaganda. Information which is false or which emphasizes just one part of a situation, used by a government or political group to make people agree with them.
They have mounted a propaganda campaign against Western governments.
Provoke. To cause a reaction or feeling, especially a sudden one.
The decision to invade provoked storms of protest.
Combat. Fighting, especially during a war.
Thousands of men were killed in hand-to-hand combat in less than 24 hours.
Recession. A difficult time when there is less trade, business activity in a country than usual.
The British economy was in its longest recession since the Second World War.
Respiration. The process of breathing.
Such anaerobic respiration is much quicker than aerobic respiration, but also much less efficient in terms of energy produced per unit of fuel.
Restrain. To stop someone from doing something, often by using physical force.
Malone had to be restrained by players and his own officials in the row that ensued.
Assign. To give someone a particular job or make them responsible for a particular person or thing.
I've been assigned the task of looking after the new students.
Diplomatic. Relating to or involving the work of diplomats.
Riots followed and there was diplomatic pressure on the government to assert its authority.
Scarcity. A situation in which there is not enough of something.
An independence based upon an abundance of goodwill may be found even where there are scarcities in power resources.
Chronic. A chronic disease or illness is one that continues for a long time and cannot be cured.
Her injuries have left her with chronic migraine headaches, seizures, insomnia, nausea, and short-term memory loss.
Secular. Not connected with or controlled by a church or other religious authority.
Harris did all the preliminary research and visited the secular buildings. Pevsner confined himself to churches and medieval domestic buildings.
Staple. A small piece of thin wire that is pushed into sheets of paper and bent over to hold them together.
It is a staple of the multilateral trading system, and is extended by the United States to all but a handful.
Synonymous. Something that is synonymous with something else is considered to be very closely connected with it.
It was once synonymous with independence, self-determination, and Black achievement.
Activate. To make an electrical system or chemical process start working.
Melanin-producing cells in our bodies are activated by ultraviolet light from the sun and can have a protective effect.
Temperate. Behavior that is temperate is calm and sensible.
The difficulty is greater in relation to overseas markets having temperatures and humidities higher than those of temperate regions.
Unification. The act of combining two or more groups, countries to make a single group or country.
Lately, I do not sleep at night, thinking about how to resolve the question of the unification of the whole country.
Mechanism. Part of a machine or a set of parts that does a particular job.
The guilds were weak and unassertive, functioning mainly as a mechanism for economic regulation.
Distribution. The act of sharing things among a large group of people in a planned way.
The proposed series of investigations will examine children's understanding of economic need, income distribution, and unemployment.
Precautionary. Done in order to prevent something dangerous or unpleasant from happening.
But the decision to give antibiotics to Yeltsin may have been precautionary and not indicative of his condition.
Constructive. Useful and helpful, or likely to produce good results.
Such were the ideas that became the motivating and constructive force in framing our ritual.
Antagonism. Hatred between people or groups of people.
But behind the expressed reasons for antagonism or inertia in the face of proposals for harmonization lies a more fundamental consideration.
Alternative. An alternative idea, plan is different from the one you have and can be used instead.
This study will also take into account choices between alternative methods and the selection of topics and sites for investigation.
Optimum. The best or most suitable for a particular purpose or in a particular situation.
Consumption of food relieves the discomfort and lowers his arousal level back towards its optimum level.
Meticulous. Very careful about small details, and always making sure that everything is done correctly.
Jeff, who now runs a successful computer software company, is meticulous about the detail throughout his home.
Cumulative. Increasing gradually as more of something is added or happens.
The purpose of this chapter is to demonstrate the power of this cumulative selection as a fundamentally non-random process.
Architecture. The style and design of a building or buildings.
The architecture and culture feel pleasantly familiar, and the friendly atmosphere makes Tenerife particularly attractive.
Backlash. A strong negative reaction by a number of people against recent events, especially against political or social developments.
Perhaps he will hold back, not least for fear of the international backlash such a violation of democracy would trigger.
Artifacts. An object such as a tool, weapon that was made in the past and is historically important.
Wright's character is in effect a projected reader registering bewilderment before an artifact which has abandoned conventional ordering.
Contradiction. A difference between two statements, beliefs, or ideas about something that means they cannot both be true.
There were too many internal contradictions which prevented the different constituencies from working effectively together.
Primitive. Belonging to a simple way of life that existed in the past and does not have modern industries and machines.
She was threatened, and the primitive male instinct to protect what was his brought his entire body to battle readiness within seconds.
Salient. The salient points or features of something are the most important or most noticeable parts of it.
Initially, this focusing of attention is hypothesized to improve task performance by concentrating resources on the salient aspects of stimuli.
Eloquent. Able to express your ideas and opinions well, especially in a way that influences people.
Aunt Margaret presided over the table with placid contentment, urging them to eat with eloquent movements of the eyes and hands.
Restoration. When you repair something such as an old building or a piece of furniture, so that it looks the same as when it was first built or made.
Although there were some rooms open to the public, most of the interior was desperately in need of restoration.
Competence. The ability to do something well.
Doctors have to constantly update their knowledge in order to maintain their professional competence.
Extraterrestrial. A creature that people think may exist on another planet.
And some clues emerged to the motives of the group that seemed focused on reaching for an extraterrestrial haven.
Affiliate. If a group or organization affiliates to or with another larger one, it forms a close connection with it.
Nevertheless, Plenderlith injects genuine pathos into his tales that, on the whole, are affiliated to the great game.
Adverse. Not good or favorable.
The Labour government was haunted constantly by economic difficulties, largely caused by an adverse balance of payments.
Adjacent. A room, building, piece of land that is adjacent to something is next to it.
They carry within their range of possibilities, which includes their genetic coding, information about adjacent and surrounding systems.
Efficient. If someone or something is efficient, they work well without wasting time, money, or energy.
Organizationally, the working of both payroll and personnel records has been very useful in providing an efficient administrative service.
Archaeological. The study of ancient societies by examining what remains of their buildings, graves, tools.
The elaborate burial of the Scythian kings is described by Herodotus and is almost entirely confirmed by archaeology.
Ally. A country that agrees to help or support another country in a war.
Korsakov and his allies may have the resources to disrupt the peace, and with it the election, if they choose.
Amend. To correct or make small changes to something that is written or spoken.
He spoke to intelligence officers at several airbases and made sure that certain records were amended.
Anatomical. Relating to the structure of human or animal bodies.
His primary insight being anatomical, Kuipers was concerned with increasingly powerful ways of tracing fiber connections.
Anesthetic. Pertaining physical insensibility.
The drug ketamine, an anesthetic used all over the world, blocks another brain chemical called glutamate.
Belief. The feeling that something is definitely true or definitely exists.
Thieves broke into the building in the mistaken belief that there was expensive computer equipment inside.
Ancestor. A member of your family who lived a long time ago.
There had been 12 of the chairs originally, made in 1750 for an ancestor of ours in Jamestown.
Budget. The money that is available to an organization or person, or a plan of how it will be spent.
A percentage of the takings is usually allocated to advertising. This is the advertising budget.
Arid. Arid land or an arid climate is very dry because it has very little rain.
Balloon pilot John Bagwell likes to surprise tourists with this unexpected greenery in the arid center of Arizona.
Assert. To state firmly that something is true.
Professor Sykes has asserted that the skeleton, which was said to be man's first ancestor, is in fact a fake.
Atomic. Relating to the energy produced by splitting atoms or the weapons that use this energy.
When Clement Attlee became Prime Minister in 1945, he was no enthusiast of atomic weapons, but that program proceeded.
Disease. An illness which affects a person, animal, or plant.
It has been claimed that fiber in the diet could help prevent many serious diseases.
Audit. An official examination of a company's financial records in order to check that they are correct.
In addition to the statutory requirements, the form and content of an audit report is governed by requirements laid down in auditing standards.
Attain. To succeed in achieving something after trying for a long time.
She mounted the bike and wobbled precariously for several yards before attaining a kind of equilibrium along Small's Wind and disappearing.
Expect. To think that something will happen because it seems likely or has been planned.
You can hardly expect a child of 3 to know the difference between right and wrong.
Organ. A part of the body, such as the heart or lungs, that has a particular purpose.
Extra doses of the hormone caused the animal's reproductive organs to develop sooner than usual.